Welcome to On the Internet with Jason, a podcast where we explore the latest headlines, news, and interesting topics we find on the Internet. Here's your host, Jason Harris.
Like, it just sounds like we're so important. Just
Move over, Dateline.
move over, Dateline. We got a show. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Hey, thanks for taking the time to jam with us today. My name is Jason Harris. I am joined by Jeff Tessier, and we have the one, the only, the Austin. That's right. He doesn't have a last name. It's like Beyonce. It's just Austin. Today, we get to talk about whatever we want to talk about when it comes to the news. You know, new, exciting things. Sometimes it's fun. Sometimes it's boring. No, I'm not. I'm just kidding. It's not boring. Don't turn this off. Don't do it. You're going to watch it. Watch it all. All right, Austin, you got some cool stuff for us. What's going on in the news today?
Yeah, let's dive in. First up, we got auto loan delinquency rates reach highest level since 1994.
You know what? I didn't even know you were going to pick this, and I was actually thinking about this the other day. So I think the timing, like, talk about just, you know, that ESPN thing I got, right? I just knew you were going to say it. That's my dad joke. Nobody got it. Can we have the little laugh? Which one's my laugh button? Oh, there we go. No, does that work? Probably not. Hey, no, but seriously, this is gonna be a real thing. It is a real thing, right? Think of COVID as kind of being that pebble that got dropped into the water, and then there's that ripple effect that kind of goes through the entire pond, right? I got to be honest with you, this actually took longer than I thought it was going to. I thought we would feel it closer, you know, within the first kind of 24 months, but it's crazy to think that here pretty soon we're going to be 4 years, you know, since COVID. That's kind of nuts, but you know, so we're feeling it, we're seeing it. You know, I mean, I think one of the biggest things is just the cost of homes right now. You know, if you the average mortgage for a home, like let's say you bought a $300,000 home, but right, you know, before COVID, you know, your mortgage was about $1,500, $1,600 something. Give you ballpark it somewhere around there. It's almost $3,000 for that exact same home. And, you know, and it's the same thing with cars too, right? That car that you bought before COVID at 0% for 72 or 84 months, that cost you $500 a month in payments, now costs you $750 to $800 a month for the exact same vehicle and the exact same term. But now you're paying, you know, 6.99% or 9.99. God, I literally saw an advertisement the other day where they actually not advertised 9.99%. You know, I mean, think about this. So interest alone on an 84-month term on something like that, you're going to pay $20,000 just in interest on a car. So, you know, you're paying $800 a month now for a car that cost you $500, and, you know, almost $30,000, $20,000 to $30,000 of that is interest.
It's insane.
It's nuts.
Well, it's already bad enough that we had these 84-month terms and 96 months that were being pushed, right? So now you have no choice but to put people into those and possibly longer. Do you think we'll see the balloon payments come back? Remember those ones, Jay?
Oh, crap. Yeah, no, 100%.
Like,
I actually already know balloons are happening.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I know lenders that are already doing balloons. Hey, for anybody out there watching, listening, if you maybe you're new to the industry, you don't know hey, I'll let you, Jeff. Jeff, explain what a balloon is to everybody.
So somewhat like a lease, you know, where you have a residual amount that's calculated at the end. So you take a portion of the loan, let's say it's a $50,000 loan, and you're committed to paying 20 grand over 5 years. And unlike a lease, you have no choice but to refinance that remaining portion or pay it out in cash if you happen to have the remainder money. And that was something that really disrupted the industry back when it first was introduced. It seemed like a great idea. Unfortunately, a lot of customers were probably not maybe as informed or as
Well, they
educated
were,
to
you know,
understand.
even if they were educated, do you really remember 5 years ago that you signed a loan like that?
Yeah, and it was actually really, really bad. So it's just, what are you gonna do, right? I saw something on the news the other night here in Canada, and they're saying that 1 in 10 people are using like what do you call those food banks? Like that is crazy.
You know, it doesn't surprise me. Yes.
So, if people typically they don't default on their car payments or their house payments, right? That's usually the last things to go.
Well, because 'cause they're necessities, right?
Yeah,
Like,
and they need to
you
get to work.
typically need your car to get to work, you need a home because you gotta have a roof over your head.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see how that transpires. But in order to continue to sell metal, it's going to be creative ways, like you said, at 9.9%. What can you really do? We did a private sale for a dealership back in the summer, and there was a lady with a vehicle that was 2 years old written off, and her payment to keep it anywhere near the $500 mark required $7,500 down, and it
Seven
was
and
a
a
big
half
shock.
thousand dollars, so $7,500 just to keep her payment similar to what it was before COVID.
Yeah. But I mean, also, like I've had many friends that I've given advice to through the years. Back when we had the dealerships, right? I had sold a 15 RVR to a friend of mine, and he did an 84-month term. And I said, "You guys drive this thing like 30 to 40,000 kilometers a year.
Mhm.
Make sure that you're not just paying just this $200 that was fitting your budget. You know what I mean? You're
Yep.
comfortable with. As you have more income, just set it aside even and pay a lump every year or whatever, right?" And it came to the term to he's 4 years in to a 7-year loan. He had 180,000 kilometers. The car was worth nothing.
Yep.
Right. This is pre-COVID. And
Yeah.
he's like, "How do I get out of this, Jeff?" And I'm like, "You owe $14,000 still. And the car, maybe if I can get somebody to come to the table, is worth 3.5 to 4."
I know. And we're gonna see a lot more of that happening. We already see a lot more of that happening right now, but then it's just the price point to even enter into, like I mean, I was thinking even younger people. I mean, Austin, you own a car, do you? Or don't you? I don't remember.
I do, yeah.
You do, right? But like
Yep.
if you and it's you've had it for a while. It's a used car. What is it again? It's a Mazda, right?
Yeah, it's a Mazda 3.
Now, if you were to go look for a new vehicle, let's say you want to buy that same Mazda 3, just a newer version of it, right? You're going to be $500-600 a month.
Yeah,
How,
that's wild.
like how do these
And
like who's going to afford this?
and there's no real way around it.
There isn't. What's some of the stats? I see a stat you have pulled up. What are those stats?
Yeah, so this is Google Trends.
Okay.
So basically like search volume, and this is for the term "give back car." So it's clearly at all-time highs right now. And yeah, it's just a steady increase since the pandemic, but more recently it's really jumped up quite a bit.
I actually do remember seeing this also during the recession. And it did take a couple years after the recession, and then we saw this exact same thing happen. It just wasn't. It didn't seem to stick as long. This seems to be way more prolonged than the recession, where it's like this is now we're going into the fourth year. It seemed like within the first 2 years of being out of the recession, things were already kind of getting back normal. 18 months to 24 months seemed to be what it was, at least for me. Who knows? Cross country could have been very different, right? But I mean, as an industry, Jeff, like, what do we do? I don't know. I'm torn here. I got one side of me kind of, saying like, crap. The other side of me is, like, well, I still need to make a living. I still need to sell cars. I still need to service those, vehicles. I'm just kind of wondering, like, what does the proactive dealership do in this situation when they hear data like this, right? When they hear data like this, like, hey, this is happening, guys. This is a real thing. What does a proactive dealership do? What are your thoughts? And I'll give you mine.
Well, I mean, you got to go after what your long term is personally. So focusing on your service department, making sure that that's longevity is there.
Mhm, mhm.
There's lots of even companies that do zero or near zero term financing for 90 days or something like that, and using that tool where it might need to be done. So for work that might need to be done on vehicles that customers can't afford, but they can find a plan to take care of it. I mean, we can't be their financial advisor as far as making sure they pay it off, because obviously those have negative impacts if you don't. But I mean, offering solutions to keep the business flowing, reaching out to your customers to make sure that they're coming back to service with you. That's, to me, where the focus really needs to be, is that service and parts business. On the sales side, working with your team to make sure that they're doing the best they can, explaining to customers what the impacts are and why they are the way they are, how you move metal in that. I mean, it's going to become tough, right? I really think it's going to be a slow period for a short little while, right? But you'll have an influx of used inventories coming in.
Mm-hmm.
That could help.
Well, I was
Maybe
thinking that too, right?
option for customers really not just being order takers anymore, right? Really trying to drive down where the narrow is, right? Maybe they want the brand new truck or whatever it is, but they've got to go with a 4 to 5 year old vehicle, right? And just have to learn how to accept that. It's going to take a lot of coaching and discussions, because I think we've lost that search for the right vehicle. It's more just taking orders, right? So
No, you're right. Yeah, you're 100% right. I mean, I think what the proactive dealer does when they hear data like this is they do start training their staff on how to handle these types of conversations. And the type of conversation that we're talking about here is very different than probably the conversations we've been teaching the industry for such a long time. Is we're actually talking about a downgrading conversation. All right, so like if you're driving that fully loaded Hyundai Santa Fe, do you need that fully loaded Hyundai Santa Fe? Can you get by over the next couple of years with an entry level Elantra? And can you start being proactive in downsizing some of your stuff? I've heard my friends start having these conversations more so around their homes. But I think once they start having the conversations about that with their homes, then immediately the next conversation is downsizing in their vehicles. It's like, yes, I have a family of 5, but do I need a Yukon XL?
yeah, probably not.
Right? Like
It's nice to have, but
well, I mean, but you know what I mean, though, right? Like, do I need to have, so it's like, can I still get what I need to get done in a Mazda CX-5? Yes, I can, right? And, and I think the proactive dealer is having that type of conversation. It's not a matter of, it's getting in preparation. I mean, if it was me, right?
yeah,
I'd be going through my database right now and, probably looking for everybody that has over an $800 payment, right? Maybe anything over that. I mean, I guess it depends what kind of brand you are and stuff like that. But maybe I'm just thinking, like, let's say I'm a Hyundai dealer, okay, or Nissan dealer, right? I'm going to go through my entire database and look for everybody that currently has an $800 payment, because I'm looking for the people that probably stretched themselves when they probably shouldn't have stretched themselves in the first place. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not looking for the person that already went for that entry level vehicle in the beginning, because they already purchased the entry level. They
not really going to be able to lower their payments either.
not going to be able to do anything, right? I'm looking for anybody that is probably $800,000-$900,000, because that's the ones that are kind of like, oh man, and I could probably still, that's what I'm saying. They're probably driving that fully loaded. I mean, well, if it's a Yukon, it's probably a $1,200 or $1,300 payment, right? But I mean, but let's say, like, I mean, I would be having conversations with those, because I think there's a lot of people that legitimately stretch themselves to get to those type of payments, and they probably represent, maybe in some cases, more than 10 or 15% of their actual monthly income is just their car payments, right? Actually, not a financial advisor, so I don't even know what the appropriate number should be. But I probably shouldn't exceed 20%. I don't know. I'm just going to guess, right? I'm going to guess. But, that's, if I was a proactive dealer, that's what I'd be thinking. That would be going through my head right now. It's like, can I run a downgrade event? Can I print this list can I reach out to, everybody that's got these larger payments? And, maybe, I mean, think about that for a second. Let me just put myself in the customer's shoes on the other end of that phone call, right? Hey, it's Jason from ABC Motors. Just wanted to call and just, check in with you and make sure yourself and your family and job situation is good. I know everyone right now is feeling a little bit of financial crunch. If there's anything that we can do to help, we'd love to have a conversation with you. Holy crap. That's a very different type of conversation I've ever had a dealership call me on. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like, because that's what it is. It's a conversation. They may be perfectly fine. I think there's so much benefit to reaching out to customers, just acknowledging that this is happening. We understand that in our community, some people are going to be impacted about it. But hey, we're a proactive company. We're a proactive business. All right. We're going to get ahead of this and at least start having some conversations with you all so we can start helping you kind of guide you through. Like, here's what happened. You do that right now. So let's say you take that person out of that Yukon XL, okay, and you put them into an Equinox, all right? Guess what happens in a couple years when interest rates are back down and things are maybe a little bit more stable? Who do you think they're coming to, all right, to say, okay, it's time for me to go back to my bigger XL now. Life's a little good. Things are a little better. You know what I mean? Like, anyways, I digress.
Absolutely. There's a loyalty factor that you're building there. And even if there's not the time for them as an issue for them, imagine talking to their friends. Oh, can I have Jason's number at ABC Motors? I need some help. And like you said, it's a conversation. It doesn't mean it's a guaranteed thing, but I think there's fruits that can really bear today and down the road from that.
Be the consultant, right? What does a consultant do? They're proactively communicating, to look. We actually do know some great salespeople have done this in the past, like at the salespeople level. Like, both Jeff and I have met salespeople that not even their dealership is doing it, but they're doing it, right? They're keeping an eye out on, their clients, and they know, like, okay, well, he's got an $820 lease payment. I should give him a call just to check in. I tell you, anyways, I'll get off my soapbox, y'all, but like, just, God, I'm saying y'all a lot. Maybe it's just Tennessee.
Became really endorsed in your.
Austin noticed it too. You noticed it too, didn't you? I said it a handful of times. All right.
I mean,
if we say you could say y'all.
Tennessee accent is awesome. So if you can develop that, go for it.
Been in Tennessee for too long. All right, what else we got? What do you got?
All right. So this is Starlink is providing free internet to Mexico. Imagine having free internet. How awesome would that be?
Yeah.
I'm moving to Mexico.
And as well as that, they boasted that they are, what is it, $3 billion in revenue this year. Starlink.
Wow.
Do you know anything about Starlink?
I do. And global domination, I think, was in their mission statement, if I remember correctly. Control the world. You know what? I don't know. I got mixed feelings on this. You know what? Yeah, I'll tell you why I have mixed feelings on this. It's the same reason I have mixed feelings why my kid comes home the other day and tells me that the entire school is getting brand new iPads. And then she shows me the privacy document I have to sign for her to be able to have this iPad. Guys, you should read this thing. I mean, 16 pages. 60. It was an online thing, so it just came to you as you're one of the parents by email. It came to it. I can guarantee you, almost nobody except
he's going to read that.
Read through 16 pages of this document, and I mean, congrats, Apple, because smart, right? I mean, it literally says that we're going to be collecting data on your kid. All right. Not them as an individual. All right. So not individualized data. Like, I know Lily Harris does this, and this. No, but it's going to be, I don't remember the word that they used, but it's
categorized, like 14-year-old girls like this. And
exactly
in this area.
Like a demographic.
Yes, exactly.
I couldn't imagine it's legal for them to capture
Yeah, they can't capture PII.
Minor data.
Minor. Well, actually, no, it is. Actually, it's illegal
Is
to
it?
capture minor PII data. So
Holy
PII
mackerel.
being data specific to an individual person. It's illegal for. Well, actually, that's not true. The collection of it is legal. It is the using of it is not legal. Isn't that weird?
Scary, because why would you collect it if you have no intention of using it?
I've seen. I've worked with a couple companies, that have, identity maps, and identity maps are mapping, multiple data points to aggregate who you are as an individual and what you do and what you like to do, right? And there are preteen data sets in those identity maps, but legally they can't use them, but they do collect them. So,
Not the
all
time.
right, going back. So, Austin, tell me what specifically caught your eye on this article.
I guess just the fact that it's free, and like I know Starlink is so impressive because you can get it anywhere. It's not like you have to be near a router or any sort of internet access. So the idea of those two, free internet and everywhere, is pretty cool.
Austin, this is probably one of the few times I'm going to poke fun at your generation. God, I sound old. You know you're old when you're like, well, let me tell you something. You know what I mean? But I will say, look, I think, Jeff, you and I, and you correct me wrong if I'm Jeff, but our generation understood that there's no free lunch.
Yeah, like who's
There's
paying for the equipment? Is there what's the catch?
There's nothing free. It doesn't exist ever, right? Like there's just no free lunch. And I'm not trying to. God, I sound old. I should shut my mouth. It's like, but I do see it. So even with my nephew, right, and he's 26. All right, and I see it just, forever, and as long as he can remember, he's the one that will literally connect to every free Wi-Fi publicly in every building, in every place of all time, right? In Austin, I know because I've seen you do it too. You're the same, right? You go to the airport, you connect to the free Wi-Fi. You go to the mall, you connect to the free. Correct me if I'm wrong. Am I wrong?
That's correct. And I'm also in the camp of I don't care if someone collects my data. Like I know that's a lot
what
of
I find
people
interesting.
really care about that, and I'm like,
I
go for
know.
it.
I find that interesting, and so look, you see an article like this, and you can see why it rubs me the wrong way, because I'm like, do these people know what they're giving up, and and how that's going to impact them in the future, data. What's that statement from Spider-Man? What's that? What's the one I'm looking for? Austin, come on, help me out here. With great power comes great
Great
responsibility.
responsibility. Yeah.
Is that it? Okay, I'm totally trying to get my internal Marvel geek Alan right now, but but that's what data is, all right? The funny thing is, the data is there over, and how we can use the data is very, very primitive yet, right? It's how that data is going to be used in the future. All right. And all of the maps that they're building to understand you as an individual, to the I don't know. Look, there's going to be a moment in time where it's like the data collected on you will tell you what car you should buy and what house you should own and what school you should attend. Do you know what I mean? See, like that's the model. They're collecting data on you at such an early. Anyways, I think there's amazing things we can do with that data. So let me tell you why I'm not fearful of data, and how it's being used, and the way I actually appreciate it. Okay, and I actually appreciate it from an advertising perspective, because I hate seeing ads that has no relevance to me as an individual whatsoever.
No.
Like I actually think it's the worst experience in the world. I'm like, why am I seeing, this ad for, retirees, for Cialis or whatever the hell that's whatever the product is, like I'm old, but I'm not that old, it's like, but like when I see ads that I know that are specific me to my, searches, so, I've been recently looking at a new boat. I know, Jeff, I'm gonna get a new one. I'm gonna go fishing this time. I'm gonna get a fishing boat, right? So what happens? I start seeing ads that are populating up, from Bass Pro and Nitro and Lowell's and some of the other brands I've been looking at and stuff like that. And it's like, and I appreciate that. I appreciate it because it's not wasting my time. They're presenting stuff that's unique to me. And anyways, I'll get off this topic because I know you got another one you want to go over before we finish up today. But I see stuff like that. All right, I see these monster social benefits, to giving, free access in a mass way, to people have now connected. But then I also, similar to my kid now getting an iPad in her school, what do we give up? And if you're okay with that return, like Austin, you said, you're okay with it. You're okay. You give me that for free. I'll give you, my entire life's data. That's fine. Anyways,
I agree with you though that it's got to be used correctly, right? Like, remember last year at the trailer, Jay, we did those tomahawk steaks, right? And we were at the barbecue store and we bought the meter stick.
Yes.
Do you know how many emails I get from that company?
Do you? You got a lot?
As if I'm going to buy one every day. It's got to and I know I can unsubscribe or whatever. I had to sign in to get the app to work or whatever, right? But it was hitting me the other day because this month alone, there's been 15 emails about why I should buy a 2-pack, a 4-pack, a 5-pack, a 10, whatever it is they're offering, Boxing Day sales. And I'm like, guys, how many of these things do you think a person is going to use or buy?
Well, the funny thing is the disconnect is actually the fact that here in the US it's Thanksgiving. In Canada, it's not. All right. Yeah. So really what they're doing is they see an upsell during this time of year because you need one for your turkey. Right. Like, it's funny. I was actually talking because I'm going to Oregon, and I was talking, to my sister, and it's like, she's like, I'm going to bring mine because she wants to do a lamb and a turkey at the same time. And I'm like, well, we're going to need two. Because they're going to be very different temperatures, very different heats. Anyways, but no, I'm with you. See, there's a disconnect.
That's the problem with today is you're just getting hit all the time. If you looked at a site, you're getting nonstop. Could have been an accidental click.
Well, and that gets to the point where it's like, okay, well, now it's almost like you get angry at the company because there's better data out there. Why are you hitting me up for Thanksgiving offers when I live in Canada?
Correct.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like, the data. All right, I'm from Canada. Why are you hitting me with this? My Thanksgiving was last month. Like that. See, that's when marketing departments are just not willing to use the data the way it can be used, because data can be used in a great way when it comes to the sense of marketing, because it can actually enhance. Like, let me go back 1 second. The best marketing strategy you can ever possibly run is the one where the customer feels known as an individual, right? So they feel known, and so the fact that company is sending you offers for American Thanksgiving and you live in Canada makes no sense, right? Now, if they sent you offers for Canadian Thanksgiving because they know you're Canada, okay, that's a little closer, not very close, but a little closer, right? Now, when they take it one step farther, because we use that meter app when we're cooking all different kinds of foods, maybe they actually would send you a set of recipes based on the last 4 or 5 types of meats that you cooked.
Or try to predict what you might do next or whatever.
Exactly. Right. So,
that would make a lot more sense. I mean,
right?
They must know how many times I've used it. Right?
They know how many times you used it. They know you used it for tomahawks. They know you used it for a pork loin. They know you used it. Maybe they know you used it for a pork loin 7 times. Right. And they're saying, hey, Jeff, based on, the meals that you enjoy cooking, here's a recipe for the best pork loin you're ever going to have in your life. Yeah. Like, do you know what I mean? Now that's a marketing strategy, right? Because it's where you're known. And that's the power of data when it's collected and utilized correctly. Anyways, look, I know I totally
derailed that one.
It's
all good. So what do you do?
Oh, guys, hey, we're getting toward the tail end of today's conversation. I know Austin's mad at me because he had 2 more things that he wanted to go through, but we'll save it for next time. Hey, for everybody out there watching, listening, really appreciate you guys' time. and taking the time to listen to us. If you like this content, and like to see more content like this, check out strategywithjason.com. You can find us anywhere on any social media platform out there. We're constantly posting this stuff out there. Hey guys, say bye to the audience.
Have a good one.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in to On the Internet with Jason. To stay up to date with all our content, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Happy podcasting.
Welcome to the Coffee with Jeff and Jason podcast. Tune in for freshly brewed discussion on everything you need to know regarding the automotive industry. Here's your hosts, Jeff Tessier and Jason Harris.
Little air guitar. Should I continue to do I love our intros, Austin. You're the best. Hey, everyone. What's going on? It is Jason Harris here, and thank you for joining us on another podcast. We get to talk about it's Coffee with Jason, by the way. I meant to say that. Thank you for joining us on an episode of Coffee with Jason and Jeff. I am Jason. That is Jeff Tessier. And Austin. Only Austin. Kind of like Beyonce. It's just Austin. You get sick and tired of me telling that joke, don't you? Like,
I mean,
I wonder what Jason
awesome.
Hey, man, hey, thank you guys for if you're out there watching, listening, really appreciate you taking the time to join us. We're kind of getting our morning going and getting our coffee going. Today's show, Austin's got some cool topics with us for us, and then me and Jeff are gonna kind of just dive into it, agree with it, disagree with it, argue about it. I will more than likely find a proverbial rabbit hole to go down and chase a squirrel at some point in time during this podcast. So if that happens, I apologize, but I really don't apologize. All right, let's go.
Sorry, not sorry.
You're not sorry. Did you ever do that when you were a kid? Sorry. Not sorry.
All right, today let's talk a little bit about how to have a successful private sale and what sort of goes into sort of strategies around having a good private sale.
Private sale. All right, let's talk about a good private sale. While I'm doing this, I need you to find out a clip for me from the movie called The Goods. Is it Sell Hard? I can't remember it. Do you remember it?
Something like that, yeah.
Austin, you'll find it. Okay, let's get into
Great movie, by the way. I knew where you were going as soon as you said find me.
find me a clip from this. Okay. Look, here's the thing with private sales. They crack me up, okay? Because for all intents and purposes, a dealership has the capabilities operationally to do this themselves, but there is this proverbial button that they can push, and they bring in this private sale expert, and they usually are overly caffeinated, bouncing off the walls, excited to be there, and maybe it's just a level of energy that your dealership doesn't normally have. But I think we have to understand as an industry that at the dealership level, we have the ability, from a process perspective, a marketing perspective, and an operations perspective, be able to do this for ourselves, but we've chosen not to. And there's been some monster companies out there that have built major businesses off of this. Jeff, what was your first private sale? I'm curious.
I don't even remember. It was probably like almost 20 years ago now. I was working at a Chrysler dealer, and there was one and it was old school, hard closing chaos. It actually, I wasn't in sales at the time, but I was just like, I wouldn't want to be a customer at this moment. It was hardcore.
It's hardcore.
So my thoughts, like when we had the dealerships, right? I mean, we were fairly new, and to do a private sale at the dealership in Hamilton wasn't really a thing to really do in the first couple of years, right? But you get a lot of pressure from the manufacturer. You guys should do a private sale. This dealer up here did one, and they sold like 10 cars, and you should. I'm like, My total impressions of private sales were just not good. So I said, no, there's no way I'm doing that, right? But I think it can be done very well if there's a lot of, good planning that goes into it. You got a good focus group that you want to focus on. You've got everybody on board, right? Like I've hosted a few private sales, and unfortunately they don't really get the whole dealership involved, right? Or aware right from reception, which just blows
That's
my
very
mind.
true. That's very true.
So, like, if you're not going to get your receptionist, the one taking phone calls, to understand what it is that's going on, what's the point? Or even the parts or service guys, right? Like technicians, anybody. So that everybody, the advisor is saying to the customers, even, hey, while you're here, your car's here. Do you mind if we get somebody to appraise it? Or do you have some time to come over to the front? We got this great event coming on. You know what I mean? There's so much prep work and costs that go into it. Why wouldn't you? But I mean, that can be on a daily anyways. But to me, that communication and getting the entire team on board to understand what it is, what you're trying to accomplish, what the goals are, how they can participate. They're not just there to go up front and get a free donut.
No. You're 100% right. I mean, I think, look, my first impression of a private sale when it was really an event. And I actually do remember it because I was probably about 10 or 12. And, this is, one of my first times at a car dealership with my dad. And, there was a sales event going on. There was a petting zoo. There was a monster truck. All right. There was a hot dog guy. And I think I got my face painted possibly. Or I got a balloon animal, I think, out of it. You know what I mean? But this was years later, I've learned that was an event company. All right. That would put this thing on. And I think at some point in time, that's what kind of private sales were. They were events. They were, the funny thing is we call them private. I mean, I do remember at one point in time them actually being a private sale, meaning that you had to have an invitation. They were typically done off site. They were at, let's call it an empty shopping mall, parking lot with tents, and it was kind of an invite only, kind of a model, right? Like, well, if you didn't have an invite, you weren't coming, and it was just the idea of an event at the dealership, I think, is absolutely amazing, and I think bringing in, new people with new energy and new excitement to really host an event to make sense. Now, private sales is kind of ultimately adjusted over the period of time, and to your point, became way more aggressive and loud and a little crazy. Austin, you have a perfect a perfect video clip of what I think people envision a private sale is. Do you want to play that for us real quick?
Yeah. Is this the one you were talking about?
This is it.
Sell metal? Sell the metal?
Sell the metal.
Feel exactly like I did before I landed on Iwo Jima. I swear to God, there's no difference at all.
The guy
Attaboy, Teddy. Pain is weakness leaving the body. Sell these bastard cars. Sell the metal. 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 Welcome to Selick Motors. Let's get you in a car.
Well, there you go. There's the classic stuff. I don't know how in the world.
I don't know what that came up from, but anyway.
That is awesome. Sell the metal. By the way, that should be the name of this particular podcast, is Sell the Metal. If anybody has not seen this movie, you need
it's a great
movie. And if you have already seen it, then you need to watch it again immediately after this podcast, because it's just fun. It's just fun, right? And but look, the movie is about this group of people that go around and host these events, and they really put an event on. They have a concert, they have a petting zoo, whatever. It's just it's an event. So here's the thing. I think what it is today, all right, I go to a private cell, I walk in, there's like 3 balloons. I'm not kidding you. This is typical, right? Maybe there's any balloons at all. All right. There's a table, possibly with a cloth hanging over it, but it could just be a table. All right. With a guy or a lady sitting there to greet you. All right. With a box of stale donuts and a box of cold coffee. Right. And they welcome you into the dealership like it's an event. But you look around the dealership doesn't look any differently than any other day you come into this place. And it drives me effing nuts. Like, I just think, like, I don't know. Woosah, but no, I get angry, right? It's like,
Well, they need to put the effort in to get the results that they want, right? If they're not
You
going to put
gotta
any
have a
effort
reason.
in, what's the point? Let's spend 15 grand, do this event, and half-ass it, and then cry when we sold, nowhere near the amount of cars and didn't really do anything different than we do every day, right? So, I mean,
yes.
I like definitely the idea of having things for the kids to do and stuff like that as well, right? Because you're going to expect people are going to bring their families, right?
Make it, you can't call it an event and not make it an event. Like, it's just, you really want to screw up your perception, your consumer's perception of you as a company. Do stupid stuff like this. All right. Have an event and not actually have an event. You know what I mean? Make it something. If you're going to call it private, make it private. I need a beeper on this thing because I want to say a bunch of right now. But you know what I mean? Like, I mean, come on, people. Like, look, and this doesn't take much anymore to make events. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't take much to create an event. And you know what? Maybe you can shoot a couple birds with one stone and create a community event and an opportunity to have conversations. Like, here's the point. Look, no one wants to sell. No one wants to be sold anymore. So why would I want to come to a 3-day event so I can be sold a car? What? No. Like, I mean, we're over this, people. Like, get over it. We're over this. We don't want to be sold something, but here's what we do want. We want an experience. All right. So if you're going to tell me during these 3 days that there's going to be a very different experience than any other day I come into your dealership, okay, you piqued my interest. What's the experience? Have it defined. Make it clear. All right. Look, people don't show up because you got hot dogs and balloons. Well, even if you did have hot dogs and balloons, it'd probably be an upgrade for most of y'all, right? But like, make it an experience. Excuse me, make it an event. We have a dealership that we work with, and during the summer they regularly host, an outdoor movie night, for families. In fact, if you don't have a vehicle, they'll actually provide you a vehicle to sit in and watch the movie. You know what I mean?
Cool.
What a better way, right, to get someone to into a new vehicle is like, don't go ahead and leave your old vehicle up there. We have a brand new minivan already set up in the back. It's got blankets. You're going to find a little picnic basket in there with some snacks. All right. The movie starts around dusk. It's going to be about 7:45. Right. Like, come on. So here I am, like, think about it. Like, this is an event. So, like, look, you kind of found a way to kind of do a community but like a community event and a kind of a sell at the same time, but you're not really selling. Because, like, what is selling anymore? Selling is just is creating conversations. It's getting into a conversation with someone. That's selling. Selling is conversations. Selling is not 3 days where we only have these prices and you'll never get these prices any other day of the week, which we know is shit.
Yeah, we're not a furniture company.
we didn't buy these, these extra pieces, from our provider in China. That's like, do you know what I mean? Like, I didn't get. Well, this is an STXFL edition. What the hell does that stand for? Well, it was kind of like the manufacturer had some extra parts when they were done building the first, 3,000 units, and so they kind of put together these models, and they're just cheaper, because they're built from extra parts. Like, we don't have that. The furniture world actually does have something similar to that. They'll be like, this was slightly damaged, or this was, they was using this fabric and they they had to use the rest of what they purchased because they can't buy it anymore. And they built these extra chairs. Like, they actually do stuff like that in the furniture industry. We don't do that in the automotive industry. Anyways, I'll shut up on that stupid rabbit hole. All right. But here's the bottom line, and then we'll move on to our next topic. If you're going to host an event, make it an effing event. Okay. What else you got?
Like that. Yeah. So like how, like you said it a little bit, you dove into a little bit, but like it's a conversation. How like salesy can you get with a private event? Like where does the sales part come into it? Like, I get that you have to make an event, make it enjoyable, make it enticing to come to. How do you make a sale at a private event?
You can't make a sale out of an event. The goal of an event is to get into conversation. All right. And then within conversations, you'll find opportunities to sell something. Right. But like, that's what I'm saying. Like, we build events for the wrong goal. Right. We build events with the intent to sell somebody something, but nobody wants to be sold anything. All right. Nobody wants to be sold anything. You know what I mean? Like, so the goal should be to generate conversations, because conversations can turn into sales. I had a Ford dealership we worked with a few years back host a small business luncheon. Okay, and it was designed for landscape companies, electrical companies, electricians, contractors, subcontractors, HVAC companies, like, I mean, you name it. There was probably like a dozen different companies, right? There. And it was just introducing, what all different ways that you can utilize an F-150 or 250 or 350, for some of those. And it was just kind of like, hey, we want you to come out and you can ask us. We're bringing our experts with us. All right, we understand that these trucks are your livelihoods. These aren't just for them. It was a little different, right? Because it was perfect. They knew their audience, right? So their audience was very, very specific. It was like their audience. They use their specific audience uses their vehicles as their livelihood, not as a means to get to their livelihood. It is their livelihood, right? So they were able to discuss all the different maybe towing capabilities and capacities, but then also maintenance cost, and then prepaid maintenance costs, and financing options, and different financing options, and add-ons. You had cabs, and you had if there's all roof racks and rails and all kinds of stuff, right? But what it was is they had about 60 plus conversations with small businesses about what their business may need from a transportation perspective. And I'll tell you this, they sold some cars. Like, they did. All right. They turned all those conversations turned into some pretty hefty sized relationships. I'm not gonna lie. Right. Because as some of the small businesses were growing, guess where their trucks were coming from? So I think we take the approach of events incorrectly. The goal should never be to sell a car. The goal should be to have as many conversations as possible. And then in those conversations, you'll find opportunities that where you'll be able to sell or guide someone to a sell. And even then, I don't like to use the word sell.
A solution.
Solution. Thank you. Well, it is. It's a solution, right?
Well, ultimately, right? I mean, and the less harsh we are in the sale during like conversations with customers, we just want to sell them a car. The customer's walls are building and building and building, right? So they know what's going on. They already know they're going to get hammered. If they're coming in, we just have that conversation, show them a new car. Maybe they've got a new model that has just come out. Hey, I know you bought this car 2 years ago.
Yep.
And you may, let's go for a drive, and I'd like to get your feedback on it. That's something that will go a long ways with a customer, even if they're not going to buy today.
100%.
Now they've better understood the car, and you didn't try to jam it down their throat. And maybe they'll decide that they really need that car today or 2 months from now. Who knows?
Now, I do remember in some situations where a legitimate sell, like a fire sale, actually had to happen. Okay. Give you a couple
Overstocks,
examples.
yeah.
Yeah, we'll give you a couple examples, right? Like I worked for a dealership once that had we went through a monster hailstorm, right? And the cars that we had, the ones that could be fixed got fixed, and then the ones that need to be written off got written off, and then there were some that was just kind of like in the middle, right? Where it's like, okay, we were able to claim insurance money off these vehicles, but then I could take that insurance money, drop the price of these vehicles so significantly, and just blow them out the door. You know, so it was a proper hail.
Scratch and dent hailstorm.
Yes, it was. It was a proper. I remember another situation where let's say the owner, possibly maybe it was the GM, got maybe overly excited about a specific model and insanely increased their order to the point where it was like we were literally overstock of a very, very specific model and just physically didn't even have the room to put the damn things. And we needed to get them out, right? So that was another one. Now I did work for a group that they did this on a regular basis. Is they hosted a very big used car blowout, meaning instead of them losing money and sending vehicles to the auction, they would have this one last hoorah, right? And it was every vehicle that maybe they bought incorrectly, or maybe they put too much money in it, or maybe the reconditioning cost was just astronomically more and it ended up setting it, or maybe there was a color or a smell or something, whatever. For whatever reason, we couldn't find an ass for the seat, right? And it was just like we had all intentions of sending this car to an auction and getting ourselves out of it, right? And then moving on. But before we did that, we legitimately had a sale. You know, just said, look, we were very honest and transparent. These cars are going to auction next week. All right. If you're not buying it this week, it's going to auction next week. That's not a lot,
Out the window, yep.
right? You know what I mean? Like it's legitimate. The price is because if I send it to auction, I have to minus my auction fees. So that is why I have it right there. You know, so if you want to buy it now, that's great. Otherwise, the bloody thing's going to auction. Then that was a legitimate, let's call it sale. You know, I think we mixed the two. I know I'll get off this topic, but I think we mixed the two between sale and event. And for some reason, we try to shove it into it. Anyways, anything else, Austin? You want to go deeper down that rabbit hole?
And then, so I'm assuming in your marketing efforts, you should talk about the experience that the customer is going to have, and not so much about the exact savings or like the offer.
It depends if it's a sale. See, that's what I'm saying. This is the problem. We sign to like try to mold an event and a sale into the same thing, right? Like, you know, it's like, okay, a sale is a sale. And yes, can it cover a period of time? Cool. You know, but don't call it an event unless you're going to make it an event, right? You can just legitimately run a sale. You know, like we did at that group, it was 9 rooftops collectively once a year. You know, we took our problem vehicles and we did it. Now you don't have to do that anymore. There's so many other solutions. You just don't have to do that anymore. But like that's the way we did it, and it was very effective. And at least we picked up money on the financing side. So like it made sense, but that was a legitimate sell. If you're going to do an event, you got to do an event. So from a marketing perspective, you know, the messaging that really needs to come out is it needs to be super transparent about what you're actually doing and what the expectations are, and what they're going to be. Preload the crap out of them. You know, Jeff, you got kids, you know what preloading means. Like you tell them in advance what it is and what is going to happen. You know, we used to run, we used to run credit repair events, right? And at these or credit, I guess we call them credit repair events. Anyways, bottom line, it was a credit challenge event. That's pretty much what it was, right? And we looked at all the vehicles our group had, and we put the ones that we knew would book the best, all right, for people that were probably creditly challenged, right? And the funny thing is there wasn't any salespeople there. It was all finance managers. The cars, look, because what you had to do is you had to sell them on it was
The payment first.
you had to sell them on the payment, and then you walked them over to the section where these are the cars that fit your payment. Which one would you like? You know, I don't know if you can do that anymore. I don't know if you can. You probably can and I bet you in some places you still can do that. That'd be great. Yeah. Look, guys, I know we're getting towards the tail end of our conversation on this, and this has been a fun episode of Coffee with Jason and Jeff. If you guys really like the content, please check out strategywithjason.com. You can also find us anywhere on social and any podcast channel. Right, Austin? Every podcast channel? Any of them? Most of them? Okay, most of them. So, you can check us out there. Thank you so much for taking the time to jam with us today. This has been a lot of fun. All right, guys, you say bye to the audience.
Good afternoon. Have a good one.
Thanks for tuning in to the Coffee with Jeff and Jason podcast with your hosts, Jeff Tessier and Jason Harris. Don't want to miss out on new content? Be sure to check out the full podcast library at strategywithjason.com to stay in the know. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Happy podcasting. Welcome to the Strategy with Jason podcast. Tune in for everything you need to know to stay in the know regarding the automotive industry. Here's your host, Jason Harris.
Hey, what's going on, Podcast Nation? It is Jason Harris here, and thank you for joining me on another episode of Strategy with Jason, where I get to talk about anything and everything I want to talk about when it comes to strategy. I am here with my co-host, Mr. Jeff Tessier, and the one, the only, the Austin. That's right. It's like Beyonce. We just call it Austin. Guys, I have fun doing this with y'all. I said it again. Oh, no. For everybody that's out there watching and listening, you may not know this, but I have moved to Nashville, Tennessee. And for the last handful of podcasts, a little bit of a Southern draw has been coming out. I'm not using the word "a" as much as maybe I have in the past, and I'm a little concerned and worried about this. I don't know. I am wearing Tennessee orange. So, I will say, guys, I will have to admit, since moving here, no one, and I mean no one, has ever questioned my obsession with the color orange. Like, not once. Like, my car's orange, and no one even asks me why it's orange. You know what I mean? Like, I can't tell you when I was living in Toronto how often I'd be asked. So, man, do you own like 16 of those polos? I was like, I do. Why? And it's like no one has ever. I mean, but it's also kind of funny though, because people will randomly walk up to me and ask me about a player and the score of a game, and I'm like, oh yeah, go Vols. I have no idea what I'm talking about, but anyways, I digress. It happened the other day. I took my daughter to the doctor's office, right? And we sit down. The doctor comes in and immediately starts talking to me about last night's game. Like I was like so totally into it, and I'm like, yeah, oh, he's going to do really well this season. I can tell. My daughter afterwards like, do you know who that player was? I'm like, I have
no idea.
None whatsoever.
Is college football bigger than like the Titans would be there?
Not only is it bigger, it's physically bigger. Okay, so the stadium in Knoxville, all right, where the Volunteers play, holds I think over 100,000 people, and the Titan Stadium here in Nashville, I think only holds like 80.
Yeah, probably.
So it's actually it's not just bigger; it's physically bigger, and
it's like a religion down there too. It
is, and I think almost every single Volunteers game is sold out, and I know Titan games are not. So it's definitely a thing. Even though the Titans, actually, I looked them up, they're not bad. Now speaking, we do have some fun sports here. Hockey is actually one. We have the Predators. So I went to the Maple Leafs game because living in Toronto, you got to have a second mortgage to afford a Maple Leafs ticket. Yeah. But here it was 2 tickets, 2 hot dogs, and parking for $139.
Cheapest seat in the Scotiabank Arena now, I think it's called, in Toronto,
Yeah.
is what, $300 and some, and you can't even see.
Oh, and that's, you're behind a pillar at the very top, and you're actually watching on your phone because you can't see what's going on in the ice. Anyways, we started this podcast like a few minutes ago. We actually haven't said anything yet. So, hey, everyone, thanks for taking the time to join us on today with Strategy with Jason. We're going to talk anything and everything we want to talk about when it comes to strategy. Austin, you got some topics for us. What do you want to jam about, man?
Yeah, let's jam about customer experience today. So this is just like an interesting concept idea of a restaurant in Norway. Just like a floating orb on the sea. So it's like it's a fine dining experience, and you board the ship, and you float around this lake as they serve your dinner, and it's sorry, no, that's not loading, but yeah, it's a very fine dining multi-course meal. They feed you sort of like natural ingredients that are grown in the area, and it's very like, it's all about the experience essentially, you know. So it's a really,
I know Norwegian food
concept
is very hot right now. Norwegian food's really hot. Like the style, the Nordic experience, you know, the way they cook food, you know, is also quite unique. You know, if you look at, like, you know, I actually watched a couple shows on Nordic food. You know, maybe a lot of people don't know about this about me, but I'm actually a foodie. I cook a lot, and I love dining experience. In fact, I've learned a lot, you know, from this. Okay, let me see this. Go ahead, play this. Let's see this. So this is this floating. That's so cool. It looks like they're coming out cooking beforehand, and you get on. Now, what happens if this thing sinks? I don't.
You're doomed.
Ideally, it won't.
Wow, how cool!
This looks like I'd be hungry after eating there.
Yeah, those didn't look like they're very large portions at all, right?
But that's that fine dining, right? But,
well, you know what? It's yes. Well, also Nordic, I think, food is also kind of similar to this. It's very rustic. You know, it's not a lot of, you know, it's a lot of stuff's cooked over flames. They eat a lot of reindeer meat. I've never actually had reindeer. It's actually on my bucket list. Can't seem to find it here in Tennessee. Anybody out there watching and listening, you know, and knows where I can buy some reindeer here in the Nashville area, let me know. But it's funny that you bring this up, because me and Jeff have actually done this with clients in the past. There was a restaurant that me and Jeff regularly visited in Milton called Pascalino's. All right. And, you know, you go there and it's, I mean, Austin, you've been to Pascalino's. How many times have you been to Pascalino's?
Come on, dude. Place. Best creme brulee I've ever had in my life.
Right. So look, and you know, I take clients to Pascalino's because, you know, there's more of an experience in a $30 lunch than I find most dealers will do in a $30,000 car purchase. You know, and, you know, think about, you know, just what that experience is. You know, I mean, you know, it's the family, it's the communication, it's the engagement, it's the see-through kitchen. You can see what the uncle's cooking in the back, and they'll tell you exactly where they source the tomatoes, and, you know, which family region the wine came from. And it's just they
fresh flowers everywhere.
Look, they bring you into their home. Right, it's pretty much their home. I mean, in fact, I mean, it's a family-owned business, so they live there. They practically live there, right? And almost every single family member works there. You know, I mean, from the nephews to the sons to, you know, the uncles, the aunts, the grandparents, like, they all work there. But there's an experience, and, you know, so, you know, experiences can be very designed and let's call them custom, kind of like what you were presenting here, this very unique, very custom experience. But then there is the experiences that we can duplicate in our own, and that we can duplicate in our own dealerships. And that's the sense of, does this really feel like home? Does this, is this the Walt Disney experience, where if I got a question, everyone is going to guide me and put me in the direction where I need to go, no matter who I'm talking to. It's just like, look, there's an experience is one that can be visual, can be audio, can be, all the way down to the touch, and it's just like, how do we create an experience, for the customer? I mean, you have to map out each individual experience. I mean, for me, I think the experience for most customers out there start with their marketing. Jeff, we were talking about this on one of the earlier podcasts, right? Like, marketing, I feel connected to the marketing when I feel known, right? Like when it's specifically designed for me, or I feel like they're connecting with me as an audience, maybe not as a person, but maybe as an audience, that says a lot. So it's like, when you're thinking of an experience, you break it down into micro elements. It's no different than what you just showed us in that video. So you have the experience of boarding that restaurant, okay, walking down the dock and getting into it. And then that looked like there was a room that kind of played, some type of visual element that looked very immersive, so like each, think of the progression. I'm walking through, I get through the entryway, I walk up the stairs, I get into a restaurant. I mean, it's just like each one of these are micro experiences. Here's the thing with experiences. It's never one big thing that creates an experience. It is a series of little things that create the experience. Jeff, Austin, you guys have all experienced it yourself. All right. Give me an example of an experience from both of y'all. Dang it, I said it again. Anyways, give me an experience from you guys that you felt like all the little things added up to this bigger experience. Jeff, you go first.
I think we talked about this one before, but when we were up in the JW Marriott last summer, fall, whatever.
That was fun.
Right, we went to that steak. I don't know, was it the Chop or whatever it's called? I don't remember what it's called, but amazing from the moment we were sat down to when we finally left, like 5 hours later. It felt like, I have no idea, but it was great. So we had an amazing waiter who really connected with us and wanted to give us an experience. Saw that Jason and I were both into the wine, and so he brought suggestions to us that could meet what we would expect, right? And he not only did that, but he brought it and further explained in how to test it and how we thought and how that was going to commensurate with our meal, what we had chosen for our steak dinner and whatnot, right? And then the dessert at the end, like everything there was just phenomenal. I've never been so full on food, wine, and an experience, and all of it together was just great.
It was something. But I think what was unique is we didn't open a menu. Do you remember?
No, we never. I didn't look at it. I think I opened it, but I couldn't read.
We opened it, and then he approached us and started talking about some of the stuff. Then we started talking about some of the specials, and I said, "Well, we're really not sure." And he's like, "If you want, I will take your hand and I will do this whole thing for you guys. You don't need to open the menu at all. I just need to know a few things from you." Right. So he asked us a few questions, maybe about like, do we like sweet stuff or salty stuff or whatever it was. I can't remember what some of the questions were. Right. Do we like smoky stuff? Do we like, fruit forward stuff? Like it was just a mix of all kinds of, I think he had maybe 3, maybe possibly 5 questions. And then it was pretty much, we handed the menu back to him. And then he crafted this experience from the point of appetizer all the way to the point of dessert and all the wines and everything in between there. But he did, and I do remember, it's just, him asking pricing, like I can create this custom experience, where do you want to go? And I was just, we were celebrating a pretty big business move for us. We're just like, woohoo!
Yeah, we may have gone a little over the top on that, but
we 100% went over the top.
It was definitely, but I think if we had gone with like a reasonable option,
he was
still been the same experience.
100%.
Maybe the wine might not have been as delectable, but like it was definitely regardless which way we were going, that experience was going to be top notch level.
It was, and he was willing to kind of design that experience to whatever we decided to want it, and I think that was very unique, right? And it hit on so many different things. It was all the little things, because what he did is he asked us questions and he learned about certain things that we liked and that we didn't like. So then every single thing that came to us was catered to the information. So again, when I talked about before, the strongest marketing campaign you can ever run is the one that you feel known, right? And so therefore, by him asking those handful of questions, he knew our likes, our dislikes, and crafted something specifically just for us. And it probably wasn't difficult. Probably took him a whole whopping minute in his head, or not even 30 seconds, to go, okay, I'm going to do this, and this, right? It wasn't a huge menu in the first place. It wasn't like there was a ton of options, but it was an experience. Austin, what about yourself, man? Where an example of where the little things, all right, created just this big experience?
Yeah, I mean, I think you can also, you get that experience from sort of the passion of maybe the staff or the owner.
Mhm.
And so my example was, there's this Korean restaurant that I go to in Toronto here, and I recently took my girlfriend there, and it actually wasn't a particularly great experience at the beginning, because they were having some sort of staffing issue, and it was like a long wait to get in, and normally it didn't need to be. It was just the fact they couldn't clear off tables quick enough to get new people in. So we had to wait a little bit, which was fine. I didn't mind. But as we're eating our meal, and like every time we've been there, it's been an amazing meal. They take very good care of you. And the owner actually walks around and like talks to each table, asks you how you're doing, how did it go, and like sort of make sure that you're enjoying the meal. And I feel like that sort of experience from the passion of the owner that actually cares about you and your experience gives you a good feeling, like it makes you feel like you're taken care of, makes you feel like you're sort of like part of their family. And
Mhm.
as we were walking out, he gave us like a very like sincere apology for how long it took because the staffing issue and whatnot. And he was like, you could tell he really cared, and he was like, please give us another chance next time. And sort of like the passion was really coming through, and sort of that adds to the experience, like even it necessarily wasn't a particularly great experience from start to finish.
Sure.
That feeling of them caring added to my experience.
Well, and it wasn't a singular thing he did, but it was the multiple things that he did that got to the point where you felt like he cared.
Yeah.
It was just, the fact that he did come around, introduce himself, have a one-on-one conversation, and still even went farther at the end, still even apologized in a sincere way. Like, there's just those create experiences, right? And I always kind of tell people there's never one little thing that makes an ultimate experience. I remember a hotel experience, New Year's. Me and the wife were going downtown. We stay at the Trump Hotel. Don't hate me for that. I pull in, and I remember, online having to book the room, and then there were you had to book valet. Like, you had to tell them in advance if you were going to be using their valet service or not. I said yes. It asked me for my make, model, and my license plate number. Oh, okay. So just, well, whatever. We pull in. Gentleman opens the door. Welcome to the tower, Mr. Harris. Huh? Another person opens my wife's door. Welcome to the tower, Mrs. Harris. Okay. We get to the door. They open it up. Well, welcome, Mr. Harris and Mrs. Harris. Okay. I'm at this point, guys, I'm like looking for a name tag. And I'm like, is there something on me? We get to the desk. Hello, welcome, Mr. and Mrs. Harris. We have your room ready, and everything is like, I couldn't figure out how the hell. And then I remembered what I registered for valet. So they had a process in place that they could input my plate number and know exactly who the guest was.
Makes sense.
Right? And then I saw that they did all have little radios. So as I pulled in and waited, they radioed in, saying the next vehicle coming in is Mr. and Mrs. Harris. So literally the person that opened the door for us, all the way to the people that checked us in, all called us by that name. And I was like, damn, right? Talking about, again, we were talking about being known. That's another one. So they hit that mark, right? But the other thing too, like, it was a little thing, just my name, just a person's name, right? Used multiple times in the first 5 minutes of me being there. Holy crap! That generated that set the stage for an experience, and then of course the room was amazing, food was amazing, everything was amazing. So it was great, right? But I mean, just talk about just intentionally crafting out an experience, but just with some simple processes, right? I'm sure they had to create some type of technology solution so that someone could input the plate's number and pulls up who it is and so on and so forth, right? But and then of course they had to get radios to radio each other and tell them who was coming in the door and stuff. Like, but I mean, geez, talk about setting the stage, right? Anyways, I digress. Customer experience. I know that's what we originally talked about, but here's the thing. And I'm going to wrap this up and then we can move to our next one. All right. Customer experiences are generated not off big things, they're generated off of little things, and they're little intentional things. Intentional. So you need to be intentional when creating an experience. Now, when you think of the overarching buying experience, the overarching service experience inside your dealership, you need to break that down into micro elements, micro experiences that generate the entire experience. And for us, typically in a dealership, the first experience is actually the marketing. All right. The second experience is typically online. The third experience is inside the dealership. And the fourth experience is what happens after I leave your business. I still think for a lot of dealerships out there, they might hit the mark on the first three, but it's the fourth one that they actually are missing. And that's like, what is the experience after I leave your dealership? And I think there's amazing ways. I actually know of one general sales manager that does this amazing thing. At the end of the day, he takes the list of the 13 or 14 people. Now, I understand it's a smaller dealership, so I get it, but I'm sure there's some way you could scale this up to a larger dealership. But he takes the list of the 13 or 14 people that visited the dealership that day, and I think he uses Loom or actually, I think he maybe used SnapCell. I can't remember. I think it is SnapCell. All right. And he creates a little thank you video for each couple that came in and then text messages it to them. It takes 30 seconds per couple. He's done in less than 10 minutes. And that's how he finishes his end of his day. Huge.
Yep.
Right? Huge. Anyways, and the message is very simple. We thank you. We appreciate. We're looking forward for the opportunity to earn your business. And of course, if there's anything I can personally do to solidify it, I am here. I am available. You can text me back at this number. Guys, I can't tell you. That goes just a long ways to really kind of put that cherry on the top for an experience. Anyways.
Yeah, and you know how every dealership claims they're family owned and operated, and they want to sort of promote the fact that they're a family. I feel like that's the sort of the experience that they're trying to hit on, is this feeling of someone who cares and you're part of the family and you're being taken care of by the owners or the staff or whatnot. And I think you can't just say that on a marketing campaign. You actually have to have the experience.
100%. Actually, family owned and operated is one of the funniest lines out there, I think. Because I don't know about your family, but yeah, it's probably not the experience you may want. I'm thinking, don't get me wrong, I love my family. But all right, I'm going to go Thanksgiving next week. I'm going to go see them. All right. And, I'm already prepared, to hear certain things my sisters are going to say to me. And, certain moods that my father might be in, and I'm like, I don't know if that's necessarily his experience. So like, I'm just saying, look, not every, stop using the word family owned and operated. And that's the reason why they should do this, because it may not be the family experience that they're ultimately looking for. Right. But excuse me. But yes, look, no one cares. No one cares that you're family owned and operated. Really what they care about is operationally what do you do differently because you're family owned and operated. Does that make sense? No, because you're family owned and operated is not the reason why I want to come and do it. It's the way you do business, all right, from a family owned and operated perspective that I am interested in. because that can actually provide me value, and when you think of, you want to make it easy for your family, you want to make it convenient for your family, all right, you want to make it cost effective, for your family. So that type of stuff makes sense. It's just not enough that we say it. You know what I mean? Jeff, anything you want to add to that?
No, I agree. I think you got to live it too, right? And I think if you take the opportunity to map out what it is that customers are already experiencing in your store. So if you're advertising that you're family owned and operated, are you showing that from the customer walking into the door, or is it just a mirage, right? So if you can sit down and map out, how can I enhance the experience from the customer walking in? Are they going to be greeted immediately? What
Mhm.
process should I put in place to make sure that that happens? Are they going to feel welcomed? Can I get you a cup of coffee? You know, it's easy enough, like you said, Mr. Harris and Mrs. Harris at the Trump Hotel. How hard is it at a dealership to know that if you've got an appointment, whether that be for service or for sales, it's 3 o'clock? Likely that's Joe or whoever, Mrs. Smith, right? So
Sure.
it's easy enough to narrow down and find ways to map. I worked at a BMW dealership, well, I guess almost 20 years ago now, but that's what we did there, and we mapped it out so to make kind of like the Disney thing where things just happen, right? We weren't allowed to just somebody walked in and we weren't allowed to ignore them. Even if we were busy, we had to look up and acknowledge them. If they needed to know where the washroom was, it wasn't just, oh, it's just down over there. We would walk them to the corridor where the washroom was. Obviously, I'm not going to bring them in, but something small like that. And when service cars were ready, they had to be in the drive-through. We would cash the customer out, explain the invoice, walk them to their car, doors up, open the driver's door, white glove service, the whole thing,
Mhm.
and thank them for their business. And you have like a 5-minute conversation with the guy and got to know him. And so that was just amazing to me. So if you can map out different ways that you can enhance that customer experience, what you want it to look like. So if you're saying you're family owned and operated, what are you doing to make sure your staff are on board with that? Because not all of them are going to be your family, obviously, right? So does everybody know the vision? Do they have it mapped out how they contribute? And I think that goes a long ways for them. If you can find all those maybe 5 or 6 different little points and how you can enhance it and keep working at it, you can really change that experience at your dealership.
I totally agree with you. By the way, I know my mom's watching right now because she just text messaged me about what I just. Hi, Mom.
Whoops. You didn't say anything bad about your mom, so that's
I didn't. I didn't say anything about her.
just
She's
your
like,
dad and your sisters. Wasn't that bad either.
it wasn't that bad at all, right? Here's the bottom line, guys. I know we're getting towards the tail end of our conversation. All right, but when we're talking about the customer experience, and by the way, Austin, great topic. I should write a book on it. I'm just kidding. Maybe. We've been talking about that. Anyways, I digress. Experiences happen because you're intentional about it. They don't happen just because they happen, right? Like that's what I'm saying. Like an experience requires intentional effort and intentional processes to make them unique. And if it's a unique restaurant, floating restaurant on the lake, if it is a customized menu designed for us from if it's the owner coming out shaking her hand and just saying hello, right? Like these things have to be intentional. They're not designed, the other example of the hotel knowing my name before I even open the door. Like these things don't happen by accident, right? Experiences happen because we are intentional with our efforts and our processes to create that experience. Now, the benefit of experience, I don't know if we really need to go into that too much further, but that an experience is something you want others to experience for themselves. So you share that information in a wildfire way. All right. Anybody that's ever going to buy a car that you happen to be within a 30 feet radius of, you're going to run over there and say, you got to go to this place. The experience is amazing. He didn't say the price is amazing. All right. You said the experience is amazing. Anyways, hey, for everyone out there watching and listening, thank you so much for hanging out with us and checking out this episode of Strategy with Jason. If you like this content and you'd like to see more content similar to this, please check out strategywithjason.com. You can also find us anywhere on social at Strategy with Jason. And of course, any one of your favorite podcast channels, just search for Strategy with Jason. Thank you so much. And you guys have yourself an amazing day. Jeff, Austin, say bye.
Have a good one.
Thanks for tuning in to the Strategy with Jason podcast with your host, Jason Harris. Don't want to miss new content? Be sure to check out the full podcast library at strategywithjason.com to stay in the know. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Happy podcasting.